See how patient you all are. What's up, y'all? This is In the Image Clothing Company Podcast. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, a company where we address the human body. A clothing company, yes, but, we're not just about selling clothing. We're about the human body, skeletal system of the human body, and allowing it to work, approaching it mostly through clothing. I love that intro. This is going to be a beautiful episode. Don't believe me, as I always say. Please don't. But here we go. This is episode 40. And I'm going to do a little rundown of what In the Image Clothing Company is, and we'll get into this. But, yes, there's three sides to us. This side here. There's discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ that get had here. And we also have In the Image Clothing Company music. Over there, we do all things music. I make music. We discuss setups of instruments, allowing the body to be positioned naturally and the only way that it actually works as we're singing and playing instruments. And then the main side of the company, In the Image Clothing Company itself, if you will, where I discuss the anatomy of the human body and clothing modifications, what clothing's doing to the body, keeping it natural, allowing it to work. Now, okay, please stick around if you want. In other words, don't care about what I say. But if you want some real gospel discussion, this is going to be huge. It's hitting me right now, and it hit me on my drive home from what I'm going to describe. And this is also episode 40, and the number 40 is very significant within Scripture. So if you want a real discussion, and if you want to hear a real gospel discussion, I want this to be heard before I even get into any further. This is something you'd want to stick around for because it's not about me. So, in fact, that's what the title of this episode is. So, alright. For everybody, man, woman, tall, short, skinny, fat, any age, clothing needs to sit where our pants are entirely above our hips, off of our hips with the waistband, so that the natural mobility and function and ranges of motion are within our hips without being altered. The waistline of the pants needs to be slightly higher in the front than in the rear because our core, the muscles of our core, what we think of our abs is what we call them around here, right? The abdominal muscles. We're trying to get them activated as a society in 2025, but they would always naturally be. Before I go any further, it's the 15th of January, 2025. There'd be no time that our core would be deactivated unless there was something that was doing that to it. It's the center of our whole body. It's stabilizing us naturally. It's just how the body works. So that's how you're going to allow it to be that way while wearing pants. The tops that we wear, the seams on tops of our shoulders need to be behind that little bone that's up there. That's actually the other end of the collarbone. And that just allows our shoulders to be in their neutral position. If you're wearing a button-up shirt, it is different because there's a band of material rather than just a singular seam. At the edges of our shoulders, right there is where, ideally, the seam should sit for the edges because that's where our shoulders have their motion and movement. Okay, hard-hitting, big stuff. Just got back from what we call Institute within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. You ever heard anything about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that you didn't like? Hey, guess what? Me neither. I mean, me too. My records aren't currently even in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I'm not baptized as a member as of current time within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But it is the true church. Don't believe me. We're going to get into this. In addition to where clothing needs to sit on every human being, In the Image Clothing Company has two prerequisites that we do in addition. I said that twice. To allow the body to stay unaltered. The first one is our shoelacing technique. Included with that is to tie the shoes evenly over toward the inside to create an even foundation from our feet, traveling up. Center line. Center, there's the center of the body, the spine. No yoga class, no belief. We don't have beliefs here, ideally. We're human beings, sinful by nature. I'm messing up, all right? You ready to hear this? If not, turn it off, but don't, because this is going to be cool. Don't believe me. You lost yet? Let's get into this. Second prerequisite is to remove all tags from clothing. Anywhere a tag is placed within clothing, it's causing an unnatural gap that's altering the body's natural workings to a great degree. Within the shoes as well, even if they're not protruding, as far as sticking out, they're still either altering the ankle's ability to naturally dorsiflex or plantar flex, or those arches in our feet, because they naturally are gripped. Okay? I want this to be real. We are real. We're a company of real. This one's different in the magnitude. All right. 40 is a number that's very significant within the Holy Bible, within Scripture, within our God himself, Jesus the Christ. That is why we are called in the image, hence the clothing company. We're designed in his image, and he is perfect, and we are imperfect, and we need him more than we could ever think that we could need anything else. He's the only thing that's actually going to fulfill us. I'm going to lose my mind over this episode. I think you can tell. All right. Y'all ready for this or what? If you're not, like I said, turn it off. Get out of here. But if you're ready, stick around. It's going to be amazing. Don't believe me. There's a scripture that talks about our God himself. He's saying, inasmuch as ye have done good to the least of these, ye have also done it to me. Meaning, our God, Jesus the Christ, came 2,025 years prior to now, born onto this earth as an infant baby, just as us human beings are. And he lived a 33-year life, and he did it perfectly because he is our God and he is perfect, and he came to be our example. And within his ministry, toward the end of his life, his ministry debatably only lasted about 3 years, from age 30 to the end of his life when he did get crucified, after living a sinless, perfect life. He taught, inasmuch as ye have done it to the least of these, ye have also done it to me. Anything we're doing to our fellow people, human beings, equals to us, we're doing to our God, because we're all his children, and he wants us to just treat each other the way that we would like to be treated. The golden rule, if you will. After Institute tonight, a little bit of context. I've talked about it in other episodes, but for this one, Institute is what we call it within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We here hold it on Wednesday evenings. We go to what we do is a church house, but you can meet anywhere with people. And we sit there and have a class and talk about the gospel of Jesus Christ, the truth of all things. Don't believe me. And that's at 7 p.m. for me, where I live at this time in my life. Afterward, I took this kid home that I've taken home a few times. He can't drive. The reasons as to why don't matter. The point is the kid needs a ride home. If he were to walk, it'd probably take him a couple hours plus. In the cold, Utah, 20-something degrees out there. 22 is what the car said when I got in there with him after Institute. So I take this kid home. Call him a kid, but I think he's older than me. You know, we're all children. You know, there's the potential for me to be like thinking, no, I don't want to take you home. You got, 100, 200, 300 people here at Institute. Someone else can take you home, dude. Got to humble myself a little bit. Got to get over my own pride. Got to get over myself. Take the kid home. If I didn't do it, someone else would have to, or else he'd have to walk. And I'm just in a car already going home. Yeah, it's the other direction, but who cares? Inasmuch as you've done it to the least of these, you've done it to me. We're here to serve our God. And he says to do that, love one another. Treat each other how you want to be treated. Here's the thing, dude. After we're sitting in his car for a bit, that's not what happened. In my car, that's not my car either, but it's my mother's van that I'm driving currently. I don't even have my own vehicle. I'm already using somebody else's. What kind of place do I have to tell the kid that I'm like too good to take him home? A little bit social awkward. Hey, guess what? So am I. There's reasons to things, you know? We're all humans. We're all equal people, regardless of how hard that is to see. And after we sat in the car for a bit, because I didn't just like pull up and say, all right, see you. I understand this kid doesn't have that much conversation with anybody. And if he does, it's not normally them listening. It's them just kind of trying to like, you know, do the bare minimum. And so I sat there and I listened to him. I said very little. I was in the car for probably, I don't know for sure, but over an hour at very least. I just kept the car running. I just sat there and I just let him talk. The dude needed to vent. He's going through some stuff. And sure, he's got some things, he's got like a pretty negative mindset on stuff. And who doesn't in certain times? Who doesn't get a little bit fearful and a little bit, I could have just kicked the kid out immediate. Just pulled him up and like, all right, yeah, I brought you home. See ya. But each time I've taken him home, I've sat there for a bit. And I've kind of let him dictate the amount of time he's going to sit in there. Yeah, something that's hard for me to do because I'm prideful. I want to get home. I got my life I think is going to take off. I'm trying to make that silly because what does that mean, It doesn't. There's no such thing as your life taking off. Your life took off when you came out of the womb. Here you go. You're a human being. That's all you're ever going to be until you die. It's so silly, man. But I'm sitting there, and I'm like, Father, I've mentioned I'm not trying to make no kind of promises on nothing, but I've mentioned within recent episodes of the podcast, I know something big is about to happen, and I know what it is. And if I'm wrong, but I know what it is. And in my own personal life, and I'm trying to figure out how it is going to happen without making it happen because that's not up to me and I'm not in charge of it. And so I'm like, getting back from Institute, and I'm thinking, hey, Father, am I supposed to go home, let him talk for just a minute? Am I supposed to stay here and let him just talk until he gets out and not push him at all to try to like leave sooner? What do you want me to do? And I'm sitting there and I'm praying and I just trying to humble myself because what happens is we think a lot of times as human beings, we have the potential to be thinking that if we don't do things the way that we think are going to have it happen, then it's not going to happen. And that's not the case. That's not how it works because we're not in charge no matter what. So I'm sitting there thinking like, all right, cool, yeah. I mean, if I go home and I got some things that I think that I might be able to do to help me accomplish the things that I think are going to happen, then yeah, maybe I got to get out of here. But no, I sat there because I was told to. Because we're not in charge, dude. We're never going to get anywhere by ourselves. We're never really going to get anywhere in this life besides closer to Christ. But that's all we're here to do. And so I'm sorry for being so prideful and for trying to run out of there and for thinking like, Father, I don't know, man. I mean, I'm already doing a good thing. Out of everybody there, I was the one that brought this kid home. Anybody else who has a vehicle and could take him to his house could have done that. But I'm doing it. And so look, I got some brownie points with you, Father. I did something good, right? I took him home. I just kick him out. Not that I'm trying to be mean, but like, that was the whole thing about taking him home, is taking him home, and I did it. Whether I cared about the kid a ton or I didn't really know him so much or care to care or whatever end it was on, the point is like, I did the thing. The thing is this kid needs to ride home, So now what? Now do I just, the whole time I'm taking him home, think about how much of a burden it is to have to do that? And then like get him there, kick him out as quick as I can so I can get back to my house and live my life up and do what I want? Or do I just say, hey, Father, I don't know. Please guide me. No matter how long this takes. No matter if we're driving to his house and all of a sudden that we see something on the side of the road, get derailed for another hour before we even get to his house. And then from there, we sit and talk for another 2. And I thought I was going straight home after Institute without taking anybody home. That's what I want. It's just obedience, just surrender. Just like, oh, yeah, I don't know. Can I please be told what to do by my God because you're perfect? That's how I'm trying to live my life. Because that's the only way that anything is actually going to happen that's mattering or meaningful or lasting at all. I mean, we're just kids, dude. We're just little kids down here. Yeah, I don't know. what I think I'm going to be doing, I mean, the point is, I don't know how something's going to work. And if I'm trying to say, all right, look, I'd like to go home now. Let's make this as quick as I can. I mean, sure, yeah, I can take you home. I get it. You don't have a ride. I'll be kind of nice, but I really got to get home. I got some super important things to do, and my life's so much more important. And sit there and be as prideful as I could be, that's a potential. That's what I'm saying. We have the, we can do whatever we want, which is absurd that we're given that ability. But, I'm grateful that I could have. I'm just grateful, man. It's weird, dude, because that's what I was doing. Here's the other thing. And I don't even know how much of this is pride in itself. I'm sitting there and I'm like, all right, Father, I'll pray to you. Instead of just thinking like, because I don't know how to explain this in the way that's just as real as it is. I want this to be real. If I sound like an upset little kid who's sitting here yelling about something, cool. I told you to leave if you're not ready for this. That's up to you. As far as like, you don't got to listen to me. How many times you heard Evan Strong, this guy speaking, say, don't believe me within this company if you've heard anything from this company? Don't believe me. Don't listen to me. It's not about me. But that's the whole point. If you listen, you'll see what I'm saying. Because in as much as you've done it to the least of these, you've done it to me. That's what he says. Can I unpack that for a second? Let me do it. If we're sitting here looking at this person, I'm not talking about this specific kid. I'm talking about any person within this right here. Any person at all. And saying, hey, I don't want to help you so much. You know why? Because I think that my life's more important. And I had problems like yours, and I overcame them. And so do that and go be on your way. I got some big things to do. With our chin in the air and our... Yeah. We can do that. We got every right to do that. Really, we do. And I felt like I was. Even though I wasn't obligated in the slightest to take the kid home. I felt like I was still doing it grudgingly. As if like, dude, I've done this like 3 other times now, bro. You can't find someone else to do it? I felt like that's the attitude that I was having within me, even though, even though nothing. That's the attitude I felt like I had doing that. I felt like that. I'm having a good time at Institute. I'm around some people that I really, really enjoy the company of. Whether they had left already or they were still there or what, the point is I was being prideful about it. Thinking that it was going to like ruin my situation to help somebody else out who has no other help unless somebody else does it. Otherwise, the kid's walking 2, 3 plus hours in the dark, 22 degrees weather in Utah, cold, dry air. I mean, where am I to say? I mean, how much can I try to make that about me and how inconveniencing it is for me to have to take you home, dude? I already did this a few times, bro. That's the thought that I had in my mind. I'm like, shoot, I mean, I get it, but man, doesn't he have someone to help him out? Yeah, he does. It's me. Is that crazy or what? I think it's crazy, dude. As if like my experience is going to be tainted because I wasn't expecting to take you home. Yes, who cares? Who cares? What if you're not expecting to get that flat tire on the way home? But then what if somebody else could stop by and help you with tools that you thought you might have had to be able to do the job but didn't? And if they don't help you, then you don't get help unless somebody else does? All of a sudden it's you next, needing that metaphorical ride home. So where are you to say anything? I'm talking about myself. I'm kind of getting after my own behavior is what I'm doing. Because I wasn't like saying no to taking him home, and I had every right to. I could have said no. There were still people there. Somebody could have probably given him a ride home. But it's not about that. It's not about who else could have done it. It's about, hey, why don't I? Why don't I? Because that's the meaning of this little parable thing here. In as much, meaning to the degree that you do it to anybody, and not only anybody, but to the least of these. That's what our God says to us. He says, if you do anything, to any degree, to the least person here, you've served me. That's our God speaking. The perfect one. The only perfect one that there is. The only way to have eternal life. The only way to actually have lasting joy and real peace and real love. And that's what he wants from us, is to serve the least of these. Meaning, you're looking around at all these human beings, don't go serving the highest and mightiest looking one on that horse that's so tall, thinking that if you do that, you might get some praise and brownie points and get in with the big dogs, and all of a sudden you're sitting there sipping the fine wine and eating the grapes off some leaves that were imported. You know, as ridiculous as you could paint that photo there. No, I mean the garbage man, who's already doing that job, and you're cleanly. The dude's covered in muck, and you don't even want to go pick up a piece of paper towel that fell. And as much as you help out the least of these, you're serving God. And that's what he wants you to do, is actually help out the least of them, more than the ones that seem to be doing so good. Because if you're doing good, you can help out others. But when you're not, you need someone to help you. It's the paradoxical gospel. It's not about climbing the ladder. It's about staying at the bottom. I've talked about this within recent episodes of the podcast as well, in the Image Clothing Company podcast. Now, yeah, dude. The one who never leaves the one behind, right? The good shepherd. The shepherd that leaves the 99 on the mountain because there's one that was lost, but he needs that one just as much as he needs the rest. The one who never leaves the one behind. Yeah, so this kid, who knows, you know? Who knows? I mean, I'm driving home and I'm thinking, man, this is ridiculous, my behavior. Because what happened is, after sitting in the car for probably, I don't know for sure, well over an hour, for sure, and just letting him vent, and I was saying very little, and he was just talking. And after that, the kid asked me if I could start picking him up from Institute. And I was real about it, because it's the truth. My schedule is so sporadic, and it always is. I'm just a very sporadic person that I just don't know for sure. That's what I said to him, just like that. And that is truth. But at the same time, there was a little bit of intention behind that, saying like, dude, I don't, because what I said was, I can probably, keep bringing you home, but I don't know about beforehand, Truth, I don't know my schedules. I'm very sporadic. I don't even have my own vehicle. If my mom's using the van that I'm currently sharing with her, then hey, I really couldn't in those cases. And whatever. But the whole thing is, if I could, that could be the difference between that kid going to Institute that night or not. And this kid doesn't really get to do much besides, I don't know what besides, but I do know for sure that he goes to Institute every Wednesday, or just about, because I see him there when I go. Often, I see him. And he's probably going every time that he can, and he really enjoys it. It's his social thing for his week. I mean, like I'm saying, maybe he doesn't even get another social thing outside of his own house besides Institute. One day a week, 1 hour, basically. An hour and a half to 2 hours, because we hang out afterward and get refreshments. Who knows? Maybe it's better than the food that he gets at home, And I'm sitting here thinking about, how can I, without lying, almost get out of this. Maybe not have to take him, but if I gotta bring him home, I guess that'll be fine. Me doing this could be the difference between him being able to go and him not. If nobody else could pick him up, but I was able to and just decided that I was too good. No, too good. My horse is too tall, right? If you know what I'm saying by that. There's just, talk about a high horse. Those with the tallest, biggest horses are like the, people with the wealth and people with the status, It's just like a metaphor. I mean, it was literal in certain places and times of the world, but that's what I mean, yes. So, if I'm sitting there thinking that I'm riding this high horse, looking down on people, and looking down on this kid, because, dude, you can't even drive? Yeah, I help you out a few times, but, bro, I can't do it every time. Well, you know who's going to do it every time? Our God, the one who doesn't need us for anything. How ridiculous is this? I'm riding home afterwards, and I was thinking, like, man, you know what? If he asks me to pick him up one of these Wednesdays, and I have every ability to do it, and I say no, I mean, what if I was him? I'm no better than him. It's not about me. It's not because I'm more this or more that or more of those things or have more of them in my mind or to others, or if that's the actual case. It doesn't matter because we are equal human beings. Regardless of cognitive abilities, or I love that I stuttered on that. That's probably the first time, basically, that I've stuttered through this whole thing. I can speak really, really well. And I kid not so much. And I stuttered as I was talking about that. That's what I'm talking about. How am I any better? Because I can speak more fluent. How am I any better? Because I'm faster than somebody else, or more efficient, or I know more things. I've had more experiences. Whatever it is, right? How am I any better? The point is, I'm not. It's not about me. You know who, I'm not going to phrase it that way because we know who. That's the whole point of In the Image Clothing Company podcast is our God, Jesus the Christ, is who turned his back to the smiters, got beaten and whipped and hung on a cross and crucified after living a perfect, sinless life. That's who. That's the one who never leaves the one behind. And if I was sitting there and I just thought, it's a Wednesday night, Institute's at 7 p.m. And, well, he was asking me, he's like, well, it's a good time, like 6:15, 6:30, that you would come pick me up, he was asking. And I'm like, well, it depends on my schedule. And that's the truth. I can't guarantee as of right now what Wednesday's going to look like. I can't guarantee as of right now what tonight's going to look like for me. I don't schedule just about anything, ever. That's me. That's how I operate. So that's true. I wasn't lying to him. I wasn't trying to get out of it right then, but I was thinking, kind of like plotting and scheming in my sinful by nature, evil little human being mind, like, when the time comes and then there's a Wednesday when he asks me and maybe I really could, what am I going to say? How am I going to get out of it? Why? What is that? That's evil. Yeah, we're evil people. That's what we are. We're human beings. Sinful by nature. Adam fell, and that's why. So that we could rely on our God. So that we could look to him and say, hey, Father, look, I messed up before anything even happened. Because I'm already having the intention of, like, trying to get out of helping this kid before I even have left his house. We're talking about, like, the next week, potentially, right? That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about with evil, sinful human beings. I said within the last episode of the podcast that you can't trust a human being. That doesn't mean to, like, a certain degree. You can't, because you can. You can trust people to degrees, but the point is we can't actually rely on human beings to, like, be true to their word because we can't. We're conditional. We're sinful. And there we go. As much as I want to think I'm going to help him out today, and I say, yeah, dude, next Wednesday I'll be there. Something comes up, and all of a sudden I'm partying with my homies, and I think that's more important, and I don't even want to go to Institute myself, let's say, hypothetical, and I don't take him, right? But then I'm at that party, and, like, yeah. It doesn't even matter. I could sit here and talk about all the hypotheticals. The point is, it's not about me. Thinking all this and that about what I'm trying to get out of Institute and the image I'm trying to have, and I'm going to leave pulling out in my car in a certain way so people know how cool I am and how good I am at life. And this kid doesn't even get to go because I wanted to have an image. Because I wanted to be seen by another human being. Let me be clear. None of this has happened. I've helped the kid when he's asked. I'm just saying hypotheticals. Let's say that I just decide that I'm too good. Right? That's what yeah, this hasn't happened so far. I guess that's a good thing to be clear about. I haven't treated him like this. I just mean, like, what if I'm just thinking, like, dude, I understand. You'd like to go, but hey, it doesn't even matter, dude. I don't know. I think I'm going to just kind of, like, sit in a way that's not so, like, squared off on this camera because I want to be chill. I want to be real about this. I'm worked up, and not in any kind of, like, out of control kind of worked up way. I just mean, like, I don't want people to think that I'm preaching the gospel out of yelling at people. The only reason I'm yelling is because of my own potential behavior that's very sinful. So It's always going to be sinful, dude. We're always going to be messing up. We're always going to be trying to put ourselves first because that's the quote unquote natural man. Within the Book of Mormon, another testament of Jesus Christ, it says that we got to put off the natural man, meaning naturally, like I'm saying, sinful by nature. Adam fell so that men might be, and men are what they are, so that they might have joy. Because we got to have that contrast of the good and bad, and this is the exact thing, you know. I'm going to lose my mind over this episode because a lot of reasons, a lot of warfare, because big stuff's happening in my life. Don't believe me? Doesn't got to look any kind of way for it to be big. Our God works in mysterious ways. But also because I'm sitting here realizing just how prideful I am. Again, clarifying, I haven't rejected anything about this kid asking for help up until this point. But I'm just thinking about potential future me. There's no future, right? But if I just decide all of a sudden that I've helped you enough, dude, get someone else to help. For whatever reason. We're sinful by nature, dude. We're sitting here thinking about ourselves before everybody else. But the point is, I didn't quite finish my story about sitting in the car in his driveway before I had left. You know, I gave him my number at the end. He asked for it, and then he's like, you know, what I said there. Yeah, the point is, dude, who am I to say something, bro? Who am I to sit there and be like, thinking I got better things to do? Or what, you know? I don't know. I don't know. It's ridiculous, bro. It's ridiculous. The point is, it's not about me. That's the whole point. Because what I was thinking is like, I still didn't finish the part about sitting in the driveway. I was sitting in his driveway, and if you've seen me within anything, in the Image Clothing Company music past few days, just I say the dates in most things is why I say that, how you would know, right? Or like past couple episodes of the podcast I've been working on, and you can hear the clicking. If you're just listening to this episode in audio form only, I'm not popping my hands. They're just like clicking. And it's good. It's a good thing. It's adjustments. It's things that people don't quite understand unless they go through, and you can all go through. That's why we have In the Image Clothing Companies, to give people truth about the human body and how it works. And I'm being the physical example, bro, of what I'm preaching. I'm going before, right? I'm the guinea pig. I'm sharing things that are happening to and through me, and we're all universally designed. I'm speaking for people across the globe because it's not about me. I'm going through this kind of stuff because it's not about me. I'm not going through this stuff so that I can live a blissful life and have my body work so perfectly wonderful and all this and not share it. I'm going through this stuff so that I can build this company and help the entirety of the globe. And that's all I want to do, is help the entirety of the globe with truth. And the truth is that our God wouldn't have just told that kid, again, I didn't do that, but just hypothetical, that like, no, I've helped you enough times, get someone else. Hundreds of people, let me say that more clearly, go to Institute every Wednesday night to this one building. And they all live, most all of them, in a very close proximity to where we are, right? Any one of them could give them a ride. But why not me? Why can't I be that any one of them? Right? Talk about like depth versus breadth of relationships. I mean, if this kid's just like kind of getting bounced around, tossed, you know, like a little canoe on the ocean, to people who are just going to decide that they want to take him home, if like they can maybe put their pride aside, like the behavior that I'm almost acting out of, right? Almost meaning I didn't like go through with doing that, but that's how I'm acting still. Then he's never going to get like the depth of a relationship with those people because he's only with them like once or twice. And then they're like, oh yeah, get someone else now. I've done my fair share of like going so far out of my way, when that's not what they're doing. What they're doing is changing his life. In the last episode of the podcast, I said I'm going to change the world. It's not about me. And that's funny because that's this episode's title is that it's not about me. And that's what I mean. Is when I say I'm going to change the world, it's not about me. But I mean stuff like this. I'm going to change the world by messing up, by coming home from Institute and just, you know, before I even get very much out of his driveway, I'm already thinking and praying. It wasn't a thought. I said, hey, Father, do you want me to make a podcast episode when I get home about this and talk to people about how I'm messing up so they can relate, so they can see that, hey, we do these kind of things as human beings, and here we go. I'm sitting there trying to put myself first, and, you know, how much I love Institute, but how I love to be in control as well, and it's out of my control because I didn't plan it to have to take this kid home. But notice I used the word have to instead of get to. Service. I get to serve the kid. I get to take the kid home. Other people, I'm not trying to compare, but I'm just saying I probably, and I can't say for certain unless I was in the car with them, but other people probably take the kid home and just like, all right, dude, see ya. Thanks. I don't know if they even say thanks, but I say thanks to him, and I took him home. That's just the case. I'm not trying to sound a certain way, but the point is, like I'm saying, I usually let him kind of dictate the amount of time that he's sitting in the car before he leaves. So, it's a thing, man. Like, as much as it's great for him to go to Institute, not only that, but then he's got this kid who will sit there in his driveway and let him vent for an hour to 2 hours plus. And I think it was about 3 hours one of these times. I just sat there in the car that I drove over there. It was my mom's. It wasn't even my own car. That's the other thing. It's like, I'm not paying for the gas right now. I'm not paying for the insurance right now. I'm not paying for the car in any kind of way, but I have one to drive. And I'm just given that right now. And so it's not even inconveniencing me in those ways. It's not an inconvenience because in as much as you do the least of these, you have done it too. The one who's always watching. It's not about the brownie points. That's what I was saying, driving home thinking like, all right, cool. Yeah, I did it. But, I don't know how many times I want to keep doing that. I know that, probably got some good brownie points. If you don't know what the term brownie points is, I don't know exactly why they call it that, but what it means is like, you do something good so that someone sees you in a good way. And so I could have the potential to think that, like, all right, cool, yeah, I'll do this because then God's always watching. Can I sit on that for a second? Thinking like it's going to help me because I'm doing something with a heart posture that's evil, but a behavior that looks good. But the person who I'm saying is always watching is an all-knowing, perfect being. And you can't confuse him. I'm not going to sit there and treat him like I have the potential to treat like my boss at work and pretend to be working while they're around. And then the second they turn the corner, play with something else, I mean, he doesn't work that way because he determines how everything works. And it's not about anything. It's not about what I think I'm going to be accomplishing by looking a certain way. Anywhere, at any time in my life. I mean, look how I'm sitting right now. You don't got to. It doesn't matter. And if you're just only listening to this in audio form, then you can't, as of right now. But I'm just saying, like, that's part of what I said. Like, I want to chill out. I want to relax. I want to show how real this is. I want to show that I'm not sitting here trying to be something, because a lot of times I'm sitting here trying to be something, and I don't want to be doing that. Right? And so that's the whole thing. Because it's not about us. Because that's the other thing, is if I'm sitting here thinking that I got to go do all these things so that my life can go the way that I think it should, the thing that I got to do so that my life will go the way that matters is humble myself and help someone out who needs it. If there's any way that I can do that, as long as I'm being prompted to. I mean, there's levels to that. You're not trying to give yourself away to everybody and everything because you could help. Then there's no you to be left, right? You fill your own cup first, and then you can pour it. But my cup got filled there at Institute. And I did what I was planning on. I was planning on going to Institute tonight. And that kid couldn't plan on it if he didn't have a way to go. Could still happen. We serve a God who's perfect. But in that conversation where I'm saying he's venting and stuff, I didn't just sit there and let him vent and just like say nothing else. But I just kept telling him to pray. I just kept reminding him of that's the answer, even when we don't want to do it, and especially then. Because I need to hear that just as much as him. That's the whole thing. Who knows? Next week, the kid's ministering to me. Ministering just meaning preaching the gospel, serving me, helping me in a way that I need it, and he's the one that comes, let's say, hypothetical, right? You never know. You never know. You think you're so much better than somebody until they've got the only thing that you actually need. Now who's quote-unquote better? Well, nobody was. We're equals. No matter what it seems like. So it's not about me. What was I going to do, you know? What am I going to be doing next Wednesday? I'm sitting here thinking I got something that's more important to do already when I told him the truth that I don't even know what's going to happen next Wednesday. But, like, in my mind, I'm like, well, hopefully it's something that's more important than this. More important to who? To him, that's like the most important thing at that time. That's what he's trying to do, is go to Institute. So it's the important thing is to get him there for his sake. But if I'm sitting there just trying to think that, like, I probably got something better going on before I know that I even could, that's making it just all about me. Little old Evan Strong. You know? That's not. None of it is. I don't got to prove nobody to anything about nothing and blah, blah, blah. How you like that grammar? You notice that some of the other episodes of the podcast, like, I speak so properly, and then sometimes I'm like this. And there's reasons to both ends and things. The point is, sometimes when I want something to be heard so real, I just, like, throw it like that. That's how I pictured my words coming out of my mouth, like they're just being thrown. Yeah, really? It's about me? Really? No, it's not. It isn't at all. It doesn't matter. I don't matter. And that's something I wholeheartedly know. I don't matter. But this is the weird thing. I'm a human being. Talk about the gospel of paradoxes. I love to matter, even though I don't want the attention. I like to have it. Right? What is that all about? How does that make any sense? But that's what happens. The point is, man, what I'm saying. That's the point. Yeah, that's the point. Because I don't want the attention, but I do like to be seen a certain way. I'll tell you that. I'll sit there and hold my head a little extra high sometimes. I will. Yeah. I don't want the attention. I don't want people coming up praising me and talking to me about stuff, but I like to be seen. And that's not a good thing. It comes from childhood. That's what I'm saying. Our God sees us always. We don't have to do things for him too. He sees us when nobody else does. And in fact, a lot of the time, that is the times when we have the closest little intimate times with him, is when we are alone and nobody else can see us, because that really gets us to understand that he's there, or at least hopefully we can understand it in that moment. Because if not, now you're really feeling like nobody sees you, because nobody does. Sometimes human beings, plenty of times in my life where there's been not a single human being who saw me, but you know who always did? God. And that's what I was telling this kid. Like I'm saying, I was preaching the gospel to him. I'm like, dude, yeah, you're venting about all this crazy stuff that's going on, and sure, there's a lot of problems, but most of them weren't his. He's just feeling for somebody else and just wants to help them and doesn't know how he can do more, but he's not supposed to because it's not his job, because it's not about him either. See what I mean? Talk about full circle. Talk about the gospel. Paradoxes call about, yeah. The truth of all things, the gospel of Jesus Christ, because that's the point. Anytime I say that, I don't need to have any kind of words after that, and you can just know that I'm talking about Jesus the Christ. Because when I say the gospel is the truth of all things, the gospel is our God. That's it. And he is all. And so, there we go. You know? Because what if I was in a situation, this is what I was kind of getting at before I said more and then didn't finish this. I was pulling out of his house, right? Dropped him off. It sat there as long as we did. And there we go. I'm leaving. And I'm thinking to myself, like, well, what I said, right? I'm like, shoot, Father, I already have the intention of, like, having plans on Wednesday, even if I don't, you know, keeping my phone at home, which I do. I haven't taken my phone to Institute in the past. Not that I'm not trying to make a point of it, but the point that I'm making, that's not a point, but just I'm giving context to, yeah, I don't have my phone with me when I go normally anyway. I mean, I really check my phone. I've mentioned I haven't had a phone plan, quote unquote, since it's been right around a year from this date back, right? So, I mean, yeah, in all seriousness, like the way that he'd text me to even ask me if I could is, you know, if I have Wi-Fi, if I'm in a building that has, like, just, you know, local internet that I'm, like, using, like, and that's just the case. That's how my life's been past year. I'm not trying to make this something it isn't. But at the same time, I'm still being prideful in it, right? So the point is, how many times am I going to say that? I think the reason I'm saying that is because it doesn't need to be over-explained. I could have said that one parable and maybe give a little context to it, and there you go. There's your point, is in as much as you've done it to the least of these, you've done it to me. Because that's what he wants. He wants us to serve, because he's not here physically with us. Not that he couldn't be. He's perfect and almighty, and he could do anything. And I'm not claiming that people haven't seen him, because, hey, who am I to say what? I'm not. I'm just an imperfect, sinful little person here. But he's not, physically here with us. Usually, I'll say, as of now. What I'm saying is, he wants us to treat every single human being the way we would treat him. And not just because of what he could do for us. It's not like, all right, Father, I know that you've got some things that you could give me. I heard you're an almighty being. What can I do to get some of that? It's not what it's about, because that's all about me. But the point is, it's not about me. The point is, remember what I said? What do we insert after I say the point is? That's the point. The point is we know him. The point is we have scripture, doctrine, the Holy Bible, the Book of Mormon, true doctrine, historical records of him and who he is, that we don't have to believe. In fact, don't. Please don't. Don't believe me. Don't believe me, please. Because walk outside and see something that's beautiful, and there he is. Here's the whole thing about all this. How many times do we make stuff about us in our lives, right? How many times do we sit there and just try to get something out of something? Like I'm saying, like, sure, I'll serve you because you can do things for me, right? How many times do we go up to our employer or the person who's going to be doing things like that for us, as far as like giving us compensation for things that we do, and we say, all right, to ourselves in our mind, like, hey, what can I do? Well, how can I approach this person to get in good with them, right? To make them think that I'm such a good employee or such a good friend or a boyfriend or a girlfriend or whatever, so that they'll do things for me, so that they'll think better of me. How many times do we approach our God like that? Sitting in that car like, all right, I'll sit here a little longer, Father, because it's probably the right thing to do, and that way you'll give me good blessings. I was thinking that as well. Because like I'm saying, these things that I know are going to happen in my life, and hey, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I know it. I know they're going to happen. I'm thinking like, hey, I better do my part. I better do what I can so that I can get what I want after as like a reward. I've talked about that. That's not quite the way I should be phrasing that. I say that through prayer all the time, that, if I'm going to go like fasting, just like going without food for a while, which is something we can do to show our God that it's not about us, to show him that we rely on him more than we rely on this earthly thing that we call food, right? Because he's above everything. And so if I'm doing anything, a lot of times I'm like, hey, Father, can you please check me and say, hey, the point is, dude, the point is, right? What's the point? Do we know the point yet? Here's the point. In Institute tonight, my teacher, she said the same thing. She was talking about the temple. And some of her slides that she was showing on the screen, right? She has the screen with words and photos, and she's teaching the class. And some of them said, the temple brings me joy, or whatever it was worded as, something similar to that. And she's like, I'm going to change that and say, Jesus Christ brings me joy. However that sentence was worded, but switching the temple for our God. Because that's why we go to the temple. It's not this building that we're going there for, right? It's not this kid that I'm actually helping out, but I'm helping God. I'm gathering Israel. Talked about what scattered Israel is within the last episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. If I'm taking this kid home so that I'll get blessed for it, that's making it about me. Even if it's still helping him. Even if I'm doing the exact same action as far as taking the kid home and that was the whole thing that was happening, if my intention and my what we call a heart posture, as in where my heart and my emotion in this is geared toward, is what am I going to get from this? This will look so good. Watch me do these good things, and then you'll want to give me something good because of how good of a boy I've been. It's like a dog, right? The dog will do a trick because he knows he'll get a treat, right? We'll do something kind for somebody because we are hoping to get blessed later, right? And in ways that's not so wrong, but it is wrong, very much so. And that's why the whole, take something so perfect, our God, and tweak it the slightest bit, and you got evil. People are doing good things, so good things come back to them. How about just do good things because you have a God who died for you and didn't need to on his end of things, except for the fact that he said he would, and he doesn't go back on his own word, right? I mean, I'm not asking for validation when I say right, but I just mean, can we reflect on that for a second? Don't believe me, but that's what it is. Don't believe me. Please don't believe me. Please don't believe me. Go read. Go pray. Get on your knees and do your own findings of truth. Don't think that I'm knowing what I'm talking about, because what if I don't, right? Don't listen to me. But if you'd like to listen to me, here we are. Yeah, I love that. Talk about a paradox. So, it's not about me, dude. It's not about me. I want to start a family. How many times am I going to be saying that until it happens? Hey, guess what? If it doesn't, I don't care. There's authenticity in those words. I'm going to slow down for a second and say that real, because the reason I'm saying that here is to help others. I want a family. I want a wife and children, and I want that. I've wanted that for a long time. But if it doesn't happen, I'm not saying this for any reason. I'm saying this because it's real. I'd be entirely content. But here's the weird thing about it. There's certain things that our God does want us to have. And why? I'm not sure. As far as why does he think that we deserve those things? I'm not sure. But here's one thing we can do with the things that he does give us, is make them not about us. We can have that family that we want, but we can have it in a way that's Christ-like, emulating our perfect God so that his glory shines through our family. There you go. That's not about you, but you're also benefiting from it. How real do we want to get? Because I want to get as real as we can, please. I don't need anybody to commit to being so real. I'm not asking for that. I'm just saying that's what I'm trying to do. And that's what's going to get us anywhere, dude. It's humbling ourselves and taking some kid home, dude. I mean, what do you got to do? You're running low on gas, and so you're thinking, just hypothetical, not so much gas, and you got enough to get yourself to institute and back, but taking the kid home might use more, and then maybe you don't get to have, the candy bar with your lunch tomorrow, but you get to have, like, the meal. Oh, shoot. You sacrifice a candy bar to get a kid to institute, use the money for that, for gas instead. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, can we actually put ourselves aside? Can we actually, lessen our pride for a second or two? Because I'm prideful, dude. I will never not be prideful, dude. That's how it is, bro. We're human beings, man. I'm sitting there thinking, I feel like I've, done such a good thing for him. I've taken you home a few times already. I didn't say anything like that, but and I wasn't fully feeling it like that. But I'm also thinking oh, your pattern's been created. What, am I the new taxi man? Hey, guess what? If I am, then I'm the person who is enabling somebody to go learn of Christ. I'm not a taxi man. I'm somebody who's delivering good news. Right? But how am I going to be looking at it? Because it's up to me and how I look at it. I can do the exact same thing and seeing it as I'm serving because this is what God would do, or this is the worst obligation and not what I planned. But it's the same thing. It's about where my mind is, what I want to look at it as, who I'm really serving. Because I'm serving myself if I'm thinking it's an obligation. It wasn't an obligation to die on the cross, knowing you're going to be resurrected, but feeling all those things. It's not like he just like went through it vicariously and, suffered the pains and afflictions for every single human to ever live and, took all our sins upon him when he was sinless and sit there and get spit on and beaten and mocked. It wasn't his obligation when he didn't need for that to happen. As far as if he wanted to, he is almighty and he could have had it be structured any kind of way. But he didn't just like perform these actions in a way that seemed like he was doing it, right? He didn't just drive the kid home with like every intention of making it the quickest trip he could so he could get back to what he wanted to do and hopefully never have to do it again. He metaphorically, quote unquote, and then I'm going to expound on this. If he were me doing this, what he did, in a sense, what he does, what our God is driving the kid home. Thinking about things on the kid's end. What does he need right now? Regardless of what I do, let me put myself aside and see what this kid needs. And he'd drive the kid home and he'd spend the amount of time that he needs with the kid. He'd give the kid the advice that he felt the kid needed. And he would make sure that kid felt seen because he does see him. Right? He would go to lengths that didn't even need to be gone, but were beneficial to do because he's perfect. And so he died for us, right? Because it wasn't about him. It wasn't about him, dude. It wasn't about him at all. It was about his Father. He looked to the Father in all things because it wasn't about him. To the point that it's perfect. I'm sitting there thinking it's a little bit much to keep taking this kid home from Institute. How much is that about me, dude? That's entirely about me. Even doing it, thinking, all right, cool. Maybe this will come back around. That's about me. That whole pay it forward thing. He paid everything. He gave it all. Our God gave it all. Because it wasn't about him. He died for the people that were mocking him. How does that make sense? The people who do the most for me in my life, sometimes I don't even want to carry a bag across the room for them that they want me to help them with. I got better things to do with nothing in my hands and no plans. What's that about? Right? That's how I act. That's what I do. You know why? Because I'm a human being and I'm sinful and I'm messing up left and right. I always will. But you know who doesn't? Our God. You guys want truth, man? I'm trying. Because that's what I want. It's crazy, man. Doesn't matter what I get, Sometimes I find myself just doing things because, like, I know I'm probably going to be getting something from it. As long as I can endure it right now. We got to be doing stuff with no expectation, bro. It's not about us. I mean, how many times we fall into the same trap? It doesn't matter, because if we do it for the rest of our lives, hey, guess what? We're still what we were at the start. Just a human being, bro. It's not about us. And preaching the gospel can be the smallest, simplest little thing, dude. That's what I was doing. By taking the kid home. Doing it a little bit with a attitude in a sense. But I did it. It's like taking your medicine, sometimes we're doing things that can help us, and I don't even know, dude. I don't even care to talk about this, but I want to help, bro. It's not about me, bro. No matter if I'm trying to make it seem that way or if you think that it seems that way, whoever you are and whoever me is. Meaning we're just humans, bro. $40. The number of this episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. The number of years that the Israelites wandered through the wilderness. The number of days and nights that our God suffered temptation before he died for us. It's not about us, dude. Because the thing is, I didn't actually do anything really that was wrong that inspired this. There's not some huge mistake that I made that is causing me to react so much about this and post this in the way that's like, look how bad I messed up or whatever. I mean, no, I pretty much didn't even mess up. I didn't hesitate. The kid asked me if he could have a ride home. Well, I was looking for a bag for the garbage bin after we had Chinese food catered at the church, and I didn't even eat any. Yet I helped clean up. I said yes when he asked if I could take him home. Right? I didn't really actually do anything wrong. But there was that slight bit in me that is what's coming out right now, that I recognized, of me being prideful and thinking that this was an obligation that I shouldn't have to do. He's trying to ask me to do something that I can say no to, and I could have. It wasn't an obligation. I could have said no for any reason, no matter what it was. I could have said no, even if his only other option was to walk home. I didn't hesitate. Right? I'm not like some bad guy in this. Like, I did something terrible and I'm sitting here and explaining my poor behavior. I did the right thing. I did a good thing. But when we're looking at our God and thinking that we can deserve anything, realizing who he is, we can't. We don't. But somehow we do in his eyes. And he gives it to us. Because, yeah, I didn't do anything wrong. I took him home. I let him vent. I gave him my number. I am open to not only taking him home more times in the coming Wednesdays, but also, if it comes to it, taking him to Institute beforehand as well, however that looks. I haven't actually done anything wrong externally within my actions. But our God doesn't look at our actions, he looks at our heart. We can't trick him. Like I described with our boss turning the corner and going back to messing around so that they don't know that that's what we were doing the whole time, except for when they were looking. Our God's always looking, and he doesn't even need to because he already knows everything before it happens. He's looking at my heart, and he saw the things that I felt. That little bit of like, I'm going to try to get out of it if I can next time. Even if it didn't happen. Just that little bit of moment there where I thought that, hey, how can I word this the best way to make him be discouraged that I might not be able to take him on Wednesdays to Institute, so that way he won't even try to ask. And then, yeah, I can probably keep helping take him home, but at least that way I'm off the hook with one side of the things, right? And that's not wrong, because I'm not obligated to. And he probably can find another way to get there. But all this reaction that's coming out of me is because of the intention that I had for something that didn't even happen yet. And comparing myself to God. I don't think that's such a wrong thing to do. I think we need to know what we're doing if we're doing that, because we can compare ourselves to no end to God, and we're still just a speck of dirt. But at least we can understand him better. And at least we can try to emulate him a little better. I don't know. I don't know where the balance is, if I'm being honest, because I'm just as human as the rest of us. And that doesn't mean that I'm not better at certain things, because I am. I'm also worse at certain things. But I don't know, as of right now, where the balance is. Looking at ourselves with a fine-tooth comb versus giving ourselves some of that grace that our God has for us. Because I think that both ends are justified. I think that even though I didn't actually do anything wrong tonight in any of this, externally, I think there is part of it that's justified when we're sitting there kind of, peering through our own hearts and seeing where our intentions were, even though our actions were good. Was I doing it with some kind of, if I have to, in my heart? And what part of it, and to what degree? And how much of that can I improve on? Because it's not about me. It's about God. The one who never leaves the one behind. I said that phrase when he closed the door. He walked from the car to his house, walked inside, closed the door. And I said, the one who never leaves the one behind. I've mentioned Taya before, the musician. Hillsong United is a band that she sang lead for quite some time. They have a song with that lyric in it. It's also just doctrinal, right? I mentioned the 99 sheep. There's 100 sheep in the fold. But if our God loses one, he will leave all the 99 and go find that one. Because that's how important every one of us is to him. But how and why? Because we're just a sheep. Each time the breeding season comes around, you've got the potential for many more sheep in your herd. And you lose one, hey, you'll probably get 10 more. But he cares about us. And why? Well, because I can't quite tell you exactly, other than the truth is that he's perfect. And I can't understand that, but I know him. It's not about us. And that's what I was saying when I said the one that never leaves the one behind. Because what I was doing is, like I was saying, I was praying through it, as sitting in the car with him. Like, how long do I stay here, Father? I mean, I understand I'm helping the kid, but also, I got a life to live. Well, what's my life, What does my life matter in the grand scheme of things if I'm not serving God? And if I'm thinking there's a better way of doing that, I'm wrong. Because that's what he would have done. That's what that means. That little phrase of not leaving this kid behind because maybe there's 99 other people I could go help. Well, if I could or couldn't or what, I'm right here, right now. And I'm making it all about me if I think I want to be somewhere besides that situation. Because I got convicted knowing, not only this time, I got convicted the first time I took the kid home, that he needed this. Meaning he needed me. Not because of me, but because of the understanding that I've been given. Because of the level of surrender that I've allowed myself to get to. And the level of work I allow to happen through me by my God. Because he's only going to use us to the degree we're willing to be used. But he's going to use us to the degree we're willing to be used. And that's the thing that's going to give us fulfillment, is being used. Sounds a little weird if you don't quite understand who our God is. But when you start to, and you can, no matter who you are, then yeah. So, what's the point? The point is Jesus Christ. Who's it about? It's about Jesus Christ. Yeah, always and forever. As in backward, too. Not just what we think of as being the future, but also since the first human. It was just as much about Christ. Also with our parents. It's not about them when they're trying to make it seem like it is, because they want us to seem like we've done something so wrong. It's about Christ. And that's in ways that look like anything. It's always about him, in every way. It's never about us. You can try to make it be about you, and it can be the case that it actually is about you. You can be sitting in a room full of 75 people, and they're all looking at you, and you're the center of attention. And that can be an amazing thing if you're preaching about Jesus Christ. But if you're just talking about all these accomplishments that you've done, then no matter how many eyes are on you, if it's for you, that's not going to help. It's not going to help in the slightest. So like I was saying, trying to be seen, right? I was trying to be seen at the church before we left to take him home. We, meaning him and I, that kid and I, tonight. I mean, it's real. I'm just trying to be so real with this to show. Really, what I'm showing is how much I feel like I messed up when I didn't. Right? How weird is this? Because who doesn't do these things? How many times do I say, I mean, I'm not expecting an answer, but I'm always saying within the podcast here, in the Image Clothing Company podcast, that we're sinful by nature, human beings. Everybody there, to some degree, was thinking about themselves more than everybody else there. When we've come there to worship God, we're not unique in this. I'm not unique in being prideful, but boy, am I prideful. But everybody is, to some degree. Everybody's got a vice, to some degree. Something they hold on to, but really something that's holding them down, right? Everybody wants to put themselves first, to some degree. Everybody. Even those people who are doing these big old humanitarian projects. Even these people who are serving other people in ways that seem so selfless, to some degree, they want to put themselves first. Because we're scared, you know? If I don't put myself first and I put someone else first, then my needs might not be met and I might die. Hey, you're right. But it's not about you. It's not about me. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to continue to act prideful, because I can guarantee to you that I will. I can guarantee to you that I will continue to try to put myself first. In times, in ways, and more than I should, because, you know, if our goal is to emulate our perfect God, well, we're imperfect people. So, the degree that we're going to be able to do that is it's capped. It is. It's capped as, you know, the last thing you do before you're perfect. That's where it's capped, because we're never going to be in this life. But then we die, and that's good, because then we stand at the feet of our God, and we tell him all the things we did that were all about us, that we shouldn't have done, and we know that we shouldn't have done, but we still did. And he judges us for the good and the bad that we did. And he's perfectly merciful, but he's not going to just let things slide. It's not about us. All right. Well, it's not, man. Don't believe me. Yeah, don't. Please don't. I love him. I'm sitting here, trying to make a family. Trying to do what I think I'm going to need to do to find the woman that's supposed to be my wife. That's actually going to be a companion. Somebody that I can share the gospel with, as in to others. And if I'm trying to think about how I can do that in a way that I can get something from, that's the whole point. I mean, it's not about me. I go into things like that, like, Father, if I'm doing this out of any kind of desire, please don't let me. How often do you hear me say, if you do? If you never heard anything from me, cool, you don't need to. But if you've heard the podcast or in the Image Clothing Company content, I say I don't care to be right, and I don't. That is real. That's what I mean. Anytime I go into anything with a desire to be right, or a desire to get something, I'm praying. I'm trying, dude. I'm trying. I'm sinful by nature. You know what I got the potential to do, and that I have done many times throughout my life to quite a great degree, is put unreal expectations on myself of how perfect I should be. Growing up, my dad tried to get me to be perfect. It's never going to happen. He tried to get me to believe he was perfect, and guess what? He's not. I didn't know that for quite some time. I thought he was. Genuinely did. Actually did. I really did. I thought my dad was perfect because he tried to make me believe that he was. That's why I always say we don't need to believe in anything. The truth is the truth no matter what. It's not about me. But it's not about me on this end. Listen to this. Because this is just as real. It's not about me being perfect. It's not about me serving all the time and being so good at making it about others because it's not about me. No, because that's in a sense trying to make it about how good I am at serving. How good I am at putting myself aside. That's making it about me as well. Anytime I say the word me, that could be you. We're just imperfect. That's it. Hold yourself to the highest standard you want, but you're going to disappoint that. Because we're always going to think, I said gonna twice. Good example. We're always going to think that we could have done better. No matter what. So hold yourself to the highest standard and reach it. And you'll find something you could have done better at within that you just didn't think about before. You have a perfect design plan and you make it just how you designed it. And you think this is the ideal. And it goes exactly according to plan. And you think, I could have improved on that. I could have made this better. That's making it about you. As weird as that might seem, as backward as that might seem, hey, we live in a gospel of paradoxes. Gospel just means good news. Hey, guess what? Good news? We're never going to be able to make it entirely not about us. Because we're conditional, we're sinful, we're human beings, we're equals, we're under God. Always. And that's it. So, a little bit of a full circle moment. No, we should not be trying to make things about us. But no matter what, every single one of us human beings will always, in this life, make things about us. The most advanced one of us, the most selfless one of us, the most humble human being you find, who is not Jesus Christ himself, will always be, to some degree, making things about themselves. We're humans. It's not about me, but hey, sometimes I'll make it be, because I'm not perfect. Sorry. Even if I wanted to be, even if you wanted me to be. And oh, sometimes people do. Sorry. And there we go. With that, I'm going to wrap out. With that, I'm going to wrap out, bro. Yeah, dog, because I am. I'm going to wrap it up. You know, that might mean we have like another episode. All right. Talk about getting tripped up, dude. I don't know. That's what I mean is I say that a lot. Okay. Episode 40. Oh, gosh. Talk about being tripped up. And this goes as long as it goes. 3-4 hour podcast episode. That's the only reason I have these. If that's not clear by now, is to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ, to spread truth, to have something here that hopefully people get something from. Not because of me, but because I'm speaking on stuff that's real, that's relatable, because it's about the gospel of Jesus Christ, which is the truth of all things. So needless to say, if you don't know Jesus Christ, your deathbed's not too late of a place to start, but if you have a time before then, that'd be great too. Because he's here, always, forever, and now. And once we get to that point that we think is coming up, it's going to be now then as well. But you know, those times in our past, those were now as well, and that doesn't quite make sense. But neither does the fact that our God still loves us when we mess up. So, I'll catch you on the flip side when I'm still making things about me, trying to be humble. I'm a human being. What do you expect? Doesn't matter, because it's not going to change me. We just are what we are, man. How can you not make it about you when you are starving and you don't know what to do and somebody has some food and you steal it? You might die if you don't, right? Yeah. We're conditional. So it is about us, or else there's no us to be there. But that's why it's hard to put ourselves aside and put our God first, because we can't make it about any other human being if we don't make it about ourselves first. But we can always make it about our God first, because that's what he did. The perfect example of putting himself aside, because he was sent here to do something that he could have said no to if he wanted. It's not about me, dude. I mean, even when I'm making it about me, it's not. Because that's not me saying that, like, I'm so greatly humble and you're just always mishearing what I say because I'm never making it about myself. Like, no, I mean, sometimes that's exactly what I'm doing. But that doesn't mean that it's actually about me still. It might be what I'm doing in the moment is all that I can to, be seen by another human being. Like I'm saying, we are conditional. We need to be loved, man. If we don't feel it in the ways that we think that we should feel it, and all the time and whatever, then we'll go to great lengths to put ourselves first and make it all about us. But we don't have to do anything for our God to love us. That's the whole point. It's about him. It's not about us and how great we are, so you should love me, somebody. Let me go advertise how cool of a human being I am and see who will love me. It's, wow, I'm dirt. And an almighty God still loves me because it's not about me. It's not about what I do. Because what I do can't change it. It can't change his view on me. It also can't change the state that I'm in, which is this carnal, fleshly, conditional little human being who's just like all the other 7+ billion that I can look around and see. We're just the same, dude. And if any one of us wants to try to make it about us, then why can't every one of us? And then at that point, where are we? But if every one of us could, can't happen. We're sinful by nature human beings. But let's say every single one of us collectively made it about our living God. That's how we live a perfect society. But then we wouldn't have to be on this earth because there's a reason we're here, and it's to mess up. It's to make it about us, to realize that next time, maybe we can do that a little bit less, and we'll feel better about it. Even though what we were trying to do was feel good by making it about us the first time around, it didn't seem to work. Right? I mean, how many times do you want to be able to mess up? How many times are you allowed to mess up? How many times do you allow yourself to mess up? Let me tell you something, little spoiler alert. Our God gives us infinite do-overs. How does that work? Well, because he knows it's not about us. Because if it's about us, he would have had a higher expectation. You shouldn't have messed up, dude. You're better than that, you know? Like, that's making it about us, though. And he's up there like, it's not about you guys. I just need you to turn to me because I love you perfectly and I am perfect. And I don't want to make that, too silly sounding. That's what it is, though. Yeah. Because even in talking about our mistakes and saying how much we've done wrong, that's not making it about us either. That's making it about our God as well. Because the whole thing about me saying any of this is, look how much I've messed up. Hey, if I didn't have somebody who could actually remedy this, then I'd be just done for. But guess what? We do have somebody who has the perfect remedy, the perfect antidote for the evil that we do on all ends. Making it about us in ways that we think are good and making it about us in ways that we're so down on ourselves and look how bad my life is, please help me. No matter what end we're making it about us on, if we stop and make it about our God, either the good that we've done and in all seriousness, like, I don't even know what I did, but this was awesome and it happened through me and it was because I allowed myself to be used as a vessel for my perfect God to do his work. Or on the other end, where I messed up so bad, and let me publicly share it and tell people because, watch, I am being changed as you are viewing it happen, and I'm not doing it, but my God is. So either end, the good and the bad. That's why I say we go to his feet and we get judged for both ends of things, because it's about him. So what's the point? Right. Shout out to my institute teacher because this whole topic and discussion wasn't really anything anywhere near what her lesson was on tonight, but her wanting to change the word temple to the name Jesus Christ within her lesson is essentially me saying that it's as simple as that. We live in a world where we're never going to have the answers. And even when we do, it's not about us. The answer is always Jesus Christ. That's it. So there you go. And don't believe me, please. Please don't believe me. A lot of people spend their whole lives just believing people. Who you want to make it about? That person who seems to have the loudest voice in the room? They'd sure like that if they're making it about them. But it's not about us. It's about God. So don't believe me. You know, sometimes people go their whole lives just being told what to believe by other people. Don't let me do that to you. Don't. No matter how hard I try on your end, don't let it happen. Please. Nobody. And I'll do my best to do the same as well. Because it's not about us. No matter what we want to believe, how good we are, how kind we really actually are, how evil we are, it's not about us. It's not about us, man, but it's about Jesus Christ, the one and only name. The only name where people can be saved. You know? Who do you want to put your faith in? You put it in yourself? Is it really about you? I don't care what your answer to that is. My answer is no. And you don't got to believe me. But there's somebody who's above everything, and that's who it is about. The one who never leaves the one behind. So, there we go. Right? There we go. I'm shaking a little bit. I mean, it's more of just like a kind of, you know, this is real. This is what I've wanted this podcast to be since the start. First few episodes were a lot of clothing stuff. Maybe not. Maybe that's not even quite the case. The reason I say that is because I know that a few episodes into In the Image Clothing Company podcast, I made like a very firm statement. This is a podcast on the gospel of Jesus Christ because our company is centered on the gospel of Jesus Christ. But the first few episodes I was like, I guess we're going to talk a lot about clothing, you know, learning about materials and doing discussions on things like that. But no, repentance. I'm sorry. That's not what this is. You know, and we got to do some things to learn some things sometimes. And so, yeah, I don't know which episode it was, but I mean, I was still, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't even matter. Even within the first episode, though, I mean, I told the story about the garden of Adam and Eve, right? And within the second episode of the podcast was titled Truth is Truth. And I was just, you know, about the gospel, mostly. So, I mean, well, and like the third or fourth episode was titled Repentance. And so, okay, I mean, it has been gospel topics the whole time, but I don't know. I think what I'm trying to say is that I never could have imagined having a podcast on the gospel of Jesus Christ. I've spent the last 11 months with my records out of the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints, which is the true church, which I made videos publicly denouncing the church within this time. And now I'm completely back, completely convicted. And hey, guess what? It's not about me. Don't believe me. How many times can I say that? Because I don't want you to. Please don't believe me on anything that I say. But please take anything that I say, and especially all the mistakes that I make, and find the truth within it. Because it is about Jesus Christ, and that's it. It's not about me. But I've been given the opportunity to make all these mistakes because that way His glory can shine through. Gosh. Talking to someone at Institute tonight, man, and they told me their conversion story, and that's exactly what I said to him. I said, that's the reason why we have these testimonies. That's the reason why we share them. It's not just to help you, it's to help everybody else because it's not about us. But it's about what's been done through us, and it's about the 180s that happen, and sometimes like a few times back to where we were, and then back to where we're, you know, trying to be or shouldn't be or what, and there we go, and we spin, and we go up and down and back and forth. We're human beings, and it's not about us because we couldn't fix it. But there is one person who can and always will, which is crazy, but it's true, and don't believe me. But our God is here. You don't gotta believe any human being or take anyone's word for it or it doesn't matter, dude. You don't gotta read any kind of, gosh, dude. Talk about real. How real do you want it? I'm trying. It's not about me, dude. It's not about me. 2025 years after the birth of our Savior. And at least here in the United States of America, it's still common for people to work. How many number of years before they retire? 40. It's biblical. It's not about us. We do things to remember who it is about. We slave away at a job for 40 years to remember that our God suffered 40 days and 40 nights. Unspeakable pains. After living a perfectly sinless life, he went through everything, and he didn't deserve any of it. A lot of people don't even know this kind of stuff. And they're living it. So I want to spread it and share it and preach the gospel, and here we go. Welcome to In the Image Clothing Company Podcast, episode 40. It's not about me. Doesn't mean I'm not going to keep making it about me. It's not. Here we go. I've searched my whole life for real. For how to make something that actually mattered and actually lasted, and how to use this gift that I've given of being able to work words so well, and all this passion that I have and understanding of the things that I've looked around and seen all my life. And here we go. I'm sitting on the floor talking to a little phone, filming an episode of In the Image Clothing Company Podcast that I never could have imagined being a company until it happened. Because it's not about me. It's when I started to put myself aside. It's when I went 2+ years without having a job after having most all my life feeling like money was the way that I was going to feel secure. And now I feel more secure than I ever thought I could because I have nothing, because it's not about me. Don't believe me, please. But please look to Christ. Don't listen to me. How can I approach this in a way that's going to actually point people to Christ? I think I'm doing it because I'm just being real. And I didn't know what that meant for my whole life, bro. Being forced to be something for somebody else that I never wanted to have to please. But I thought that's the only way I was going to ever be safe. And I still never felt like I was. But it's about Jesus Christ. Don't believe me. But I can't fake this, so I'm just trying, dude. This is where you're home. And you don't have to be in a physical location to be here, but you have to just try your best to have faith that our God lives, because he does, and he will manifest himself to you. Please don't believe me. I've been through it, bro. I don't care if you care. But what it's done is given me perspective on what's really there when nothing else is. And it's not about me, but it's about God. Always and forever. Even when I think it's not, even when I start to get all caught up in my own wants and needs and desires and trying to get things for myself, it's still about him. It's still just as much not about me. Oh, gosh. This is what I want. This is what I searched my entire life for, and it was here the whole time. And I neglected him every time that I needed something. I turned to something that I thought. It's not about me, dude. It's when I give everything up that I actually have something that matters, bro. And that doesn't make any sense to a human being, but we can understand it to a degree. So please just try your best to know Christ. Because you can, and you don't have to even have access to scripture, but you can just pray to the God who created all the things that you see when you look around out of the eyes that he created, because he created your eyes as well. Eyes to see is what we're given, ears to hear, and he says, anyone who has ears to hear, let him hear. That's what he says. In other words, preach the gospel to everybody, anywhere, in all places. And here I go. In which place am I in? It doesn't matter. How do I look? It doesn't matter. You care? Hey, guess what? It's not about me. So it doesn't matter how I look, right? It doesn't matter how I'm acting. You think I'm making a show. You think I'm just crying for this, for that. You think I'm making something out of nothing. You think that I found something that's not really there, but I'm believing there is. You're thinking whatever. Hey, don't believe me. Because it's not about me. Do you see why I say that now? Please? For the sake that it's not? Please? Everyone just wants to be loved, man. And guess what? You already are. And guess what? You don't deserve it. But neither do I. It's not about me. It's about the one. So, here we go. All the money in the world, never going to help me. This family that I would love to have so much of my own, finding a wife and having kids. If I get it or I don't get it, that's not going to be the thing that's going to help me. Nothing will help me besides God. And He's already here. And that's the case for every one of us, because we really are the same. So talk about an episode 40. All right. Okay, thank you. This is In The Image Clothing Company. We will have clothing that we will have available that you don't have to purchase. It's not about us. But we'll have it because that way we will have something that we'll try our best to do. Every intention behind being to keep it centered, fitting correct, and allowing the human body to work. We get in these chronic patternings and we just go through a lot of pain physically. And I have a lot of understanding of why that is. And I'm trying to just help people with that because I've been helped. So, if you want to purchase our clothing when it comes time, it'll be natural materials. Just try to get it in your size. If you want discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ, please want that. It doesn't have to be from me, but that's what I'm doing here with this podcast. And if you want to hear me spread the gospel, this is where I do that. In the Image Clothing Company Music Suite. Don't believe me, but I love it. I've got Frank the guitar. You heard him in the intro. And, little half-sized Yamaha CGS 102A with a custom radius. All right, dude. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Because this is it. You want to put on all your makeup for all you women out there? You want to get your beard all trimmed nice for all you men out there? You want to go to the barber and the salon, have your nails done, wear all the expensive clothing? You think that's going to get you somewhere? Don't believe me, but it's not. If you want to sit down on the floor and cry your eyes out of conviction and